What's up everybody, Tech Chucker here, and today I've got a review of the Hasbro Marvel Legends Warlock Wave X-Men Cyclops. Now this figure was originally my absolute must-have of this wave. I needed to have a Jim Lee Cyclops. I missed out on the old one from I believe the Toy Biz days, so I was super stoked to go ahead and find this. And if you haven't already, go ahead and check out my action figure hunt video. It's going to pop up in the upper right hand corner, where you can go ahead and see me find them. But let's go ahead and crack this thing open and take a closer look, because I think you're going to be a little bit surprised and maybe a hair disappointed with what I think of this thing. Alrighty, the articulation on this figure is not unique to anything we've seen before. We've seen this body mold about 1 billion times, so we'll go through this fairly quickly. His head is on a ball peg with a hinge, and it works really, really well. There's really no issues. He can look all the way up, which is awesome. He can look all the way down. You do have to be a little bit careful with just how you position it, otherwise it looks a little funky, but that's okay. He's got great side to side, nothing's getting in the way of that, and then not really any tilt. I mean, just a tiny little bit, and I wish that there was a little bit better. In the shoulders, he's got a ball hinge, and he's able to get his arm all the way out, which is pretty good. Full rotation of that shoulder as well, which is really good. Upper bicep swivel, no issues. Double jointed elbows. See if I can get that thing to go. Mine's a little bit tight. Come on. There we go. There we go. So he can get his arm almost all the way in half, which is great for those necessary poses. He's got a peg and a hinge in his wrist, and that works very, very well. Also, which allows us to get him into those iconic poses that Cyclops, has to get into to be able to use his goggles or whatever. I should do my research before I do these, but whatever. Moving into the torso, he has that standard hinge, which allows him to click forward. Basically, it's one click. You could get 2 clicks, but it doesn't want to stay. And you can see that shoulder thing, the belt basically unhooks. We'll talk about that a little bit more. It's a pain in the butt. But he's able to kind of lean back a little bit, not as much as I'd like. He's got a good waist swivel that works with no issues. And then moving into the hips, he's got T-jointed hip joints, which doesn't really allow for a lot of, range of motion, but this is about as far as he can go with his feet flat on the floor. We'll see if I can get him to actually stand. And there you go. So, not too bad, nothing too surprising considering this body mold. He's able to kick out all the way, which is great. I'm really happy with that. And just a little bit back. He can't kick back too much, but again, we've seen this body mold so many times that it's no surprise. There's an upper thigh cut, which works well. Double jointed knees. Those work really, really well. So he can bend that knee pretty much all the way in half. There is a upper shin cut. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it works. You can use it if you need it. Get this thing out of the way. We'll talk about those. And then there's an ankle hinge as well. He can get his foot all the way back, and actually he can get his foot forward a lot, which is great. I feel like, is this the turn of the tide for Hasbro that they actually fixed that? And then there's an ankle rocker, which works very well. So mostly I'm happy about the fact that ankle, the foot can move forward more than usual. So that may make this a slightly more unique figure, but maybe I'm just missing something, and the other figures that are using that ankle and shin piece are also able to move their foot forward that much. But I'm happy. I'm satisfied with the articulation on this figure. It's pretty much what I would expect. All right, the sculpt and the paint, this is where the major issues really arise. And we'll start with the head sculpt. And I actually am really, really satisfied with this head sculpt. I think Hasbro did a really great job. It's pretty accurate, in my opinion, to the source material, the Jim Lee Cyclops look. I love the hair. I love the goggles. The paint could be a little bit cleaner. You can see there's a little bit of messiness on the mask to face transition. But overall, this head sculpt is actually pretty solid. I really, really like it. I think it looks great. The hair, I don't think that there's much for any shading. Maybe there is. but it looks great, it's sculpted well. Moving into the torso, this piece, this is where they really start failing. So this little harness thing, it looks nice enough. It's not the same yellow color as the rest of the figure, which may not be a big deal. It's sculpted well enough, there's nice detail, but there's no paint. The pouches and whatnot don't have any paint. But my biggest issue is the execution of this. It is, you gotta basically buckle this thing in, and the little tab that goes in there is, you know, still kind of soft, so it doesn't hold its position. It feels like everything is a little bit too tight. I kind of wish that they would have just sculpted this onto the figure. I don't know how they would have done it. I'm not a sculptor, so it's nice that you could take this off, but you can see when you twist him, it just pops off. And when you move him around a little bit, it just looks a little weird. Then moving into these ankle or the wrist bracelets, there's no paint on those either, no shading, none whatsoever. I love this hand. I think that this hand is really, really well sculpted. A little paint would have helped to give it a little bit of shading, but you can see those little wrist guard things have no paint on them. Moving down into the biggest troublesome area is these hip or thigh pieces, and they're the bane of my existence. They fall down. Mine fell off right away as soon as I took them out of the packaging. Now, yes, you can push them up and you can kind of situate it to be on his thigh. Same with these shin pieces. You can push them up. The shin ones are actually harder to stay in place than the thigh ones. Why Hasbro didn't just glue them on, I don't understand. I can live with the thigh ones not being glued on, but those shin ones should have been glued on because there's no other place that they should be, and there's no reason that they aren't glued on, in my opinion. And it really detracts from the figure. Until I can go ahead and fix it and glue this thing together, it's such a bummer for me. Some people, it's like, oh, not a big deal, I already glued mine. Not a big deal, I don't care. I just think the principle of the thing, Hasbro was lazy on this one. The other piece I don't really care for is there's not much for paint. There's not much for shading. I mean, they got the belt buckle painted nice, and the X-Men little circle logo that you can't see behind his hand, that's painted nice enough. But other than that, there's really no paint on the figure. So it's a little bit of a letdown in the sculpt and in the, well, maybe not so much the sculpt, just the execution and then the paint. Hasbro figured it out. They figured out the equation. Give us characters that we all want, and we won't complain too much about there not being very many accessories. Cyclops comes with pretty much nothing. What would be awesome is if he came with his light beam effect. Something that, you know, hooked into the goggles here, a red translucent plastic that kind of comes out a little bit would be awesome. The other thing that would be cool is alternate hands. It would be pretty sweet to be able to have, you know, 2 fist hands and 2 goggle activating hands. Now, I can't remember if Cyclops can only activate his goggle deals from the one side, or if there's basically a button on both sides. I can't remember that, so someone let me know in the comments below if that's a legit thing that he can do it from both sides. If not, that's fine. Maybe just a slightly more open hand would be cool, but you know, just a few more options with the accessories would be good, since we really didn't get it very much for paint. And the rest of the figure is just kind of, you know, we've seen this before. The head sculpt is nice. I don't even know that we need an alternate head, you know, because this one's pretty nice. I wouldn't need anything else. So overall, you know, I'm still pretty happy that I've got this figure in my collection, and the issues that are there are fixable. It's nothing terrible that we can't deal with. But, you know, it's a little bit of a letdown when it feels like the figure's not complete and it doesn't really give you the value that you feel you should have gotten, like you do with, say, the Colossus, where that one, I really feel like they put some effort into it. Or Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan comes with nothing else, but it's such a good figure, and I feel like they actually put some effort into it that I'm okay with not getting all those other bells and whistles. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Am I way off base? Am I being a little petty about this? You know, I can see it. I can see, you know, hey, this figure aesthetically it looks great. But I'm just a little bit tired of feeling as though Hasbro is kind of taking advantage of the fact that we're just fans of these characters and they know that we'll buy them. So let me know in the comments what you think.
Alrighty folks, I hope you liked this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't already done so, click the subscribe button. Check out some of my other videos. You can see them right up here and down here. Also, check out the featured video that I've got here. Every single video I'm going to feature someone else's video. Somebody who has a channel, either it's an up-and-comer like myself or somebody who's an old pro. Whatever it is, it's going to be awesome. So make sure you go check it out, like their content, subscribe to their channel, and until next time, I'll see you later.
Tech Trickers.